Welcome to BrushFires. So believe it or not, this is week 6. We are 75% done of all the classes. Tonight's class is going to be completely different than anything that we've done up to this point. And in fact, you guys are going to be guinea pigs because normally we do this live and there's a lot of interchange and in many ways you get shortchanged because you don't actually get to meet all these really cool people. But you're going to get to meet some of them tonight. So that's going to be fun for everybody. And pray that it works, because we experimented with it a few weeks ago and it did work. So let's hopefully it will do that again. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to get together and to share with those that you've brought before us. We thank you for their willingness to take their time to listen, to participate. And God, I ask that you would work through me, guide me, control my thoughts, control my intentions, and until we have accomplished everything that you want us to accomplish in this class. In Christ's name I pray, amen. All right, if there are any questions with regards to the homework or where we're at, I think most of you are pretty much caught up as far as getting your homework in and getting the assessments done. And so that part is all behind you. But if you don't, we are now going to be at the point of, after next week, of doing the design discovery meeting. So if you've turned in all your homework and you've made most of the classes, then you're going to be able to participate in that. There's a couple things that you need to know about doing this. Okay, first of all, you're going to need somebody called an advisor. If you're married, typically that's fairly easy. It's just your husband or your wife, but you'll need somebody that is available to do that. Now, we are doing the DDMs on a private Zoom. So that is going to make it easier for those of you that have people that you would like to have as your advisor, your mother or your brother who are out of state, then they can participate with us. But you will need to do that. So there's a couple of things for you to understand. You need to have all of your assessments done. You need to have this advisor and they need to be available at the exact same time. And the way the process works is that typically we do these on Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. And you'll contact Buffy. She'll verify that everything's ready on your side. And then you'll make sure she'll let you know what dates are available. And then you'll contact whoever it is that you want to be your advisor. The role of the advisor is pretty important because you will be, at times, as difficult as some of these assessments have been for some of you, especially in abilities and values, we make it even more difficult by slicing and dicing up those assessments and asking you to really make some hard choices. And that's where the advisor is a huge benefit to you, because sometimes we're too close to the forest to see the trees, and you'll need that person to be able to go, well, what do you think? And so that is an important part of it. So make sure that you kind of figure out who that person is going to be. And because we're doing a Zoom, they don't have to be local anymore. They don't have to actually show up here at church. The next scheduled BrushFires course is October 6th. That is our fall class. Because this class got canceled as far as being a live session, we already have a huge waiting list on that. So if you have people that are interested in taking this course in October, have them register now. They can go to the church website. If you don't know the information, Buffy can get it to you. And let them know that when they go to sign up, say, hey, I'm a friend of Call. Got it right? I think that's right. Did I? I got it right. Awesome. Your sister, I believe, is already signed up for that October group also. So just make sure that they know that they need to get their stuff together early so that they can get the information in. And we're going to actually be transitioning in that class to doing it totally online. So all the assessments will be done online, and you'll be able to do it on your phone at work or wherever. You won't need to have the books anymore. What else? All right. going to read you a poem. It's called The Snowflake. It's the waiting I can't abide. Anxious feelings no longer hide. It chips away each day inside, so pointless to resist the tide. I long for a goal to achieve. Days past in myself I believe. Feelings of success I bereave as I watch my self-worth unweave. It is his hands that are at play. Within myself I hear him say, you think each snowflake falls its way? I placed each one before today. And in your life I say it so, I plant you here for you to grow. For how long, only I will know, though love for you I long to show. It's your soul the Lamb has won. Know that you're my adopted son. Have faith until my will is done. Trust me, child, I love you, John. Once again, written before BrushFires was even conceived. That was from February 2017. I was 2 years into watching my company get hammered and still dealing with the fallout from that. And I was sitting there on the chair watching the snowfall in our backyard. And it occurred to me that they don't fall randomly, that our God is so amazing that he actually places them. And then I thought of my circumstance, and I thought, wow, I'm exactly where he wants to be. I need to be patient. I need to deal with it. I need to accept it. But I need to understand that he loves me, and he's got me here at this point in time for me to grow. Following God's path for you, which was the beginning of that for me, brings success, brings contentment, brings fulfillment. I didn't know that at the time. Again, something that I wrote knew my heart better than I knew my heart. But it's there, and it's there for each and every one of you. All right, so tonight we're going to be talking about listening. And I'm going to apologize first because this has the potential of ruining every conversation you have from this point forward. You're going to be finding yourself in the middle of conversations going, she is a terrible listener. Or you're going to catch yourself in the middle of a conversation going, oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing exactly what JR said. I got to stop it. It's going to get in your head, and I want it to get in your head because there is a powerful positive force that can happen if you just learn how to be a better listener. This is one of the first of the 4 powerful tools that you'll be getting out of BrushFires. This, your design discovery assessment, your purpose statement, and then the spiritual gifts test. So this is the first of 4 major gifts that you get out of this class. I did, didn't I? Okay, well, now's a good time to go into that. Thanks. So tonight we have our guest speaker is Cindy Inge. Cindy, along with her husband Ned, came into our class again. I didn't know them from Adam. And I love it when couples do this together because they generally do grow really quickly in the process. And there's a couple times, in fact, I think it was the motivator role exercise where I was talking about how a tight motivated role person can get squeezed out and ultimately find themselves really not liking what they're doing because the job has changed. It used to take all the versatility, and it used to be something that they could participate with all of who they are, and then slowly over time they get pigeonholed into just being a small portion of who they are. And I remember Ned coming up to me and going, you have no idea how on the mark you were. And he was talking about his wife. So Cindy Inge, you're on.
Hello. Well, first off, I want to thank you guys for asking me back. And it's funny that you talk about that, JR, because that's something that I was going to bring up in my speech. So now I have to change my plans.
Sorry. No, share it.
No, it's okay. Um, I was actually fortunate to take BrushFires when we could have a bonfire to kind of kick off the season, and that um, that event was really, really amazing. We all kind of stood up and gave um, something back to God to take from us, things that we struggled with, whether it be fear, anxiety, stress, could be all kinds of things. That day, I stood up and I gave fear to God. Let Him take it. Let go of the things that I cannot control. And so that first meeting, that was my first impression of BrushFires. And right there, I was hooked. um, just that a, a weight off your shoulder of just saying that you're trusting God to deal with the things that we physically can't deal with. And then the next time I stepped into a BrushFires class, we did the motivated roll exercise. And I am 40% maximizer, but I'm also 20% refiner, 30% developer, and 10% creative developer. And so I sat in that role of bouncing from chair to chair. I can fill this role if I need to. I can fill that role if I need to. And at the end of the meeting, like JR said, Ned, one of the things JR said is not only that you could be like pigeonholed, but maybe not even feel like appreciated anymore. You're doing so much. There's just different things that I think sometimes that I was struggling with. I had been in the same job for 15 years. And I was struggling. I didn't feel appreciated. I was looking for a way out. And what's funny is, fast forward a little bit, I had an opportunity come about where I had, back in 2017, applied for a position that I let fear take over. I didn't accept the position because I was afraid. I was afraid of what I didn't know, or, I was safe where I was at, and I was afraid of the unknown. But man, after that class, that same job opening opened up, and I took the hook. I put it in my application. I made the phone call, told them I was ready to make the jump. And that was back in November when I was still in BrushFires, that I took the position. And, less than 6 months later, I have made Employee of the Month there. I've just, the things that have happened by letting go of that fear and letting God take the reins has been pretty amazing. I know JR talks a little bit about joy bombs. And I don't know if you mentioned it much in your class, but there's just these little joy bombs throughout my life where I'm like, you know what? Thank you, God. Yes, you put me right where I need to be. I learned a lot about myself and letting go. Doing it with my husband was great because we learned a lot about how each other work, and how to work with each other. Like that it's okay to be different, and it's okay to have, I'm 90% feeler, and I think he's 100% thinker. So, I mean, when I think he's not feeling something that I'm feeling, it's because he's not. And learning to accept that that's okay. So anyhow, I just was recognized as Employee of the Month at my new position. And for me, that makes me feel like I'm on the right track. For 15 years, I was at a place where they could throw money at me, and it wasn't about money. It was really, truly just about being appreciated. And that's what I have where I'm at now. What else was I going to say? Um, the engaged listening class, which I am looking forward to probably hanging out and attending and helping if I can, um, is something that it truly is a wake up call. I struggled with this. I still struggle with this. I feel like then when there's opportunity that I missed because I opened my mouth rather than opened my ears and listened, or said things to engage in conversation to learn about somebody else versus interjecting my agenda, which I do a lot. Um, and I really am working on this still, but JR's right. It will, every conversation or when you miss that opportunity to listen, this class will always come back and remind you of the things that you could have learned by being patient and opening your ears and listening. So I still feel like God's on my shoulder, nudging me at times, like, just be quiet, because you could have learned so much more about that person, or, gosh, just engaged in general. There's times when you get caught up in the moment, or just with what's going on in your life, that sometimes just to sit back and listen to what somebody else might be going through, you might at the end have a positive influence in that conversation by just listening and giving them that shoulder. With that, I would just say I'm beyond blessed to have been a part of this class. I'm grateful that you asked me back. And I am excited to see the joy bombs in your guys' life. So that's all I have.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Congratulations on being Employee of the Month and
Thank you.
And doing that. I mean, I remember when you were struggling with that decision about switching over, and I'm really proud of you that you took the chance and that it's actually paid off. God is going to lead all of us to a point where we have as much information that he is going and willing to share with us. But you will have to take those steps of faith on your own. It's hard. Seek out wise counsel. Seek out the people that love you and ask them their opinion. Some of them are, I will tell you, not everybody that you ask an opinion is going to give you the best advice. Some of them are so fearful that they will tell you not to do it. So seek out wise counsel, one that will help you look at it from as many different angles as possible, and then ask yourself, what does God want me to do? Okay, is the only thing holding me back fear? Okay, well, maybe that is a good sign then, because we're not supposed to be controlled by fear, right? We're supposed to be, that's a trigger of the orphan child identity. And we're trying to put that behind us. So thank you so much for sharing, Cindy. Very, very cool.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Listening. The Father calls us to listen. This is from Isaiah 55, 1-3. Hope, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and you who have no money, come, buy and eat. Why do you spend money for what is not bread and your wages for what does not satisfy? Listen carefully to me and eat what is good, and delight in yourself in abundance. Incline your ear. Come to me. Listen, that you may live, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you according to the faithful mercies shown to David. In week 4, we talked about the relationship and the desire that God has for us to have a healthy relationship with him. And part of that is listening. Part of that is being available to listen. Trying to set a time aside where you can actually say, okay, God, I know you got me where you got me, and I've got this situation. How do you want me to handle this? What is your best advice? Who should I talk to? Where can I go for counsel? Is it going to be different than it was last time? All these things, he generally wants to have that kind of conversation with you. In this particular phrase, or this scripture, we're looking at various forms of listening 6 times. All right. I'm going to ask for a volunteer, which means I'm going to appoint one of you. Volunteering sounds so much nicer than actually putting you on the spot. Gabe, you still with us? Hey, Gabe. Go ahead, unmute Gabe. So, Gabe, you and I are going to have a conversation. And just to kind of give you something to think about, a happy story about either a childhood pet or a sibling or a friend, back when you were a kid, 12, younger, whatever, something that you have that is based upon that. And we're just going to have a talk about it, and we'll go from there. All right?
All right. So thanks for putting me on the spot. That makes me nervous. No.
Everybody else is going, I'm so glad it was Gabe.
Okay, I'm going to grab a prop.
A prop? That's new.
Okay, this was left out for a reason, I guess. So I made second class scout, and my friend Eben Steele, I actually was kind of raised in a drug family, so I didn't have a lot of healthy stuff going on. So this was one thing. Eben and his family took me to scouts, and we had a blast. We went to summer camp. We chopped wood. We got the tote and chip, and I didn't lose any corners. Yeah, we had a lot of fun camping and learning how to scout, and scouting was a healthy part of my life for a bit.
So during that process, were there other sports that you were involved in, or anything like that you were also doing, or was scouting your main thing?
So we were pretty poor. I wanted to do sports. I was actually pretty good at it, but it cost a little bit of money, not much for the jersey and stuff. So I didn't really get opportunities to play sports. So I played it on, at recess. I was pretty good at football, and I wanted to play, but never really played on a team.
Yeah, I played soccer and baseball for a long time as a kid, and I remember riding my bike, got miles to go to baseball practice, things I would never allow my own kids or grandkids to do. And then, of course, in high school, they introduced soccer into our high school, and so that formed a love of soccer. We went all over Florida, from Orlando to Sanford to the land to play games and so forth. All right, I'm going to end it right there. It's getting harder for me to be rude during this conversation. I'm telling you that. So I quickly got him off of scouting. Well, not quickly, because that was the part where I couldn't be rude anymore. But we stopped talking about scouting, right? Because I switched it over to sports. And then he talked a little bit about him being good at sports, but then it became all about me. It became about how I played baseball and how I rode my bike for a long period of time to baseball practice, and then how I played soccer, and we went over and so forth. So I basically took the conversation away from Gabe, and I made it about me. And that's how most of your conversations go. Either you're the one taking it away, or somebody else is doing it to you. It doesn't edify anybody when we do that. So we're going to give it another go. And this time we're going to take a different approach to it. I really want you to, and don't be afraid to say the exact same thing that you shared earlier, and with the whole card thing and everything. so that we can try this conversation in a different way. Are you ready, Gabe?
Yep.
All right, fire away.
All right. So you want me to talk about a happy memory from my
No,
childhood?
the scouting thing.
All right. So yeah, this is as far as I made it in scouting, second class.
Very cool.
Back in '93, and it was really good for me because I got away from what was going on at home, and I mean we had a lot of love in our family, but we were pretty dysfunctional. So I would go out there and just have a blast, you know.
And what was your friend? What was your friend's name?
Eben Steele.
Okay.
So his mom would pick me up from home and take me to scouts and take me back, and so. If it wasn't for Eben and his family, I wouldn't have been a scout.
Right.
So just wouldn't have been able to ride my bike from Vay to Priest River. So I was really proud to be a scout too. It taught me some values and how to, wear a Class A uniform and have your uniform clean and nice and then. But even back then, we weren't walking old ladies across the street. Old ladies are pretty independent. They don't want help across the street. But no, scouting was a blast. Eben was a good friend of mine. We're not very close anymore, but we're friends on Facebook. I don't know that that's very close, but
Tell me more about the values that you learned through scouting.
I think one of the main fundamentals, there's core values in scouting is one of the number one is trust in God. And I really like the fact that we would get up there and do the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer. And they weren't like saying, hey, you have to be a Catholic or a Christian or whatever. We said a prayer. So trustworthy, a scout is, oh boy, you put me on the spot. Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, clean, and reverent. So with all those a long time ago, I used to be a scout leader. So this is kind of cheating because I was a scout leader maybe 10 years ago.
So it stuck with you.
Yeah. So, a scout is cheerful and trustworthy. You can trust a scout. So, when I got caught stealing a piece of candy, I really felt shame, like, I'm supposed to be a scout, and here I am taking a piece of candy. So scouting really molded a lot of who you are as a man now, it sounds like. Yep. And everything really boils down to God. That's what I think love and respect is like the core of everything is what I've seen. Well, I know you've shared that you've had, you had struggles in the past with drugs and that you've given God the glory for getting you out of there. But if those early seeds weren't planted in scouting, you might not have had that to draw on to rescue you. Pretty cool that Evan's mom was willing to drive you and to take you to something that, I mean, you quoted the Scouts pledge. So good on you. Right. It really caught me off guard. I get nervous. I do a lot of public speaking, but I always get nervous and when I'm getting ready to speak. And so when I'm not prepared, that really throws me. You're an analyst, aren't you? Yes. Maximizer, analyst, feeler. That's your analyst. And we'll go ahead and stop the conversation here, but we'll talk about that later. Analysts don't like being put on the spot. But you did well. So, all right, guys. So what did we learn that time? Okay. We learned the name of the mother, right? We learned that she drove him to and from to scout. We learned the pledge of the Scouts. We learned that it had an impact on Gabe that still to the point where he was willing to be a scout leader. We didn't get off into soccer. Didn't talk about me at all. The process of engaged listening is to let the other person know that you are with them and you are hearing them. The questions that I asked either highlighted something that Gabe was already talking about,
like what values he learned, and that's how we got the Scouts Pledge. I drew him back to his friend, and he told me more about the friend and the mother that drove him and made it possible. All the questions that I did ask in that second go-round were intended to have Gabe share more of that story. All right, so it's one of the hardest and most valuable tools for relationships. Engaged listening, for all purposes, is a discipline of conversation that first and foremost requires us to put our agendas aside. It's not about me playing soccer. It's not about, oh, I was in Scouts too, and I became an Eagle Scout, which I was never an Eagle Scout. I was never even a Scout. It's not about that. It's about the other person. It is an investment of your time letting that other person know that they genuinely matter. The things that we've been taught in conversation in society is we think we're connecting with somebody when we share a similar experience, but what we're really doing is we're saying, I'm really more interested in talking about me and less about you. So let's talk about me. That's what we're doing. So if you use a conversation in a way that actually draws the person out and asks questions that engage them and causes them to go deeper into what they were starting to say, you're actually saying that, hey, you matter. So how do we do this? You're trying to let them know that you're hearing them. So hearing and listening, very, very important. If you're thinking about the next thing to say and it's about you, you're not listening. To be truly heard and to be truly known, to be truly seen by your real identity is an expression of love. When you take that time and share with another human being that you actually are listening to them, that you're really hearing them, that you genuinely want to connect with them, it is a greater sign of love than writing them a Valentine's note or anything else you could possibly say. I will tell you, in my experience in dealing with people as a leader, people are willing to even give up money before they will give up their time. You ask for volunteers for an event, there are very few people that will volunteer. There are more people that will say, here's $20, here's $100, here's whatever. They're willing to do that because their time is their most valuable asset that they have. And so when you take that asset and you share it with somebody and you say, you matter, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to have a conversation about you, you can't tell that person you love them more by doing just that. It's a way to validate them and to be truly seen. It's not about right and wrong. It's not about judgment, and it's definitely not about your agenda. All right, so how do we do this? There's a number of different techniques that we use. There are various types of questions that you can ask to keep the conversation going. So you want to ask them questions so that they're actually giving out more and more of what they're wanting to share. But the questions have got to be careful. The who, what, where, when, and how questions are all fine questions to ask. So I asked them, what were the values that he learned? I asked him about his friend. What was his friend's name? So the who and what. You stay away from why questions. Why puts the person on the defense? Why basically says you need to justify your decision. Why did you go into scouting? That could have killed that conversation right then and there. Well, Gabe would then be put in position of saying, well, gee, it was a good thing. I was invited. It puts the person on the defense. Do all that you can going forward to eliminate the why in conversations and see where it does with your relationships. In our own personal life, in our marriage, Buffy asked the why question a lot. And until I learned this, I had no idea why it bothered me so much. All it did was it set me off for some reason. And ultimately, I figured out what it was. It was questioning my leadership. See, as a high developer, as a controller, as a high realist, and a very, very, very high planner, I'm really, really confident about most of my decisions. It doesn't make me right, but I'm real confident about these decisions. So when somebody I love asks me that why question and puts me in that position of having to justify why I made that decision the way I did, it put me on the defense. And what I heard was, you don't trust my decision. Now, that wasn't what she was saying. That wasn't really what she oftentimes wanted to know, was what was involved in coming up with that decision, or how did you come up with that decision? But the why is that word that absolutely gets underneath your skin that says, you justify why you did that. It's like an authority thing. It's like a parent to a child. And so it bothered me. Now, Buffy never intended it that way, and it was definitely triggering an orphan child thing in me, and me presuming that Buffy was doing that was dishonoring to her, but the damage was all being done. And I didn't have any idea why it would bother me that way. So now, if a why gets slipped up, I'll smile. I go, do I need to justify my choice? And I got to tell you, that tool that the enemy used to create division in our relationship has been blunted. I mean, it doesn't have the power that it did before. So do all that you can to get rid of that word out of your vocabulary as it relates to conversation with another human being. All right. So some additional techniques of engaged listening. You want to gather as much information as they are willing to share without telling them experiences or solutions. Each time you interrupt somebody in a conversation with your agenda, you're basically telling them you're not interested in hearing them. You ask the who, what, where, when, and how questions, never the why question. You're listening to understand. The questions and response should keep them in discovery mode. Discovery mode is it's a way of thinking out loud, like being a sounding board. And so you want them to continue to share, to talk, to think out loud, if you will, and to do that, you've got to keep your agenda out of the whole process. So. So things like, if you're not going to be able to use like a question, then eye contact, super important. Head nodding, just simple questions like very cool, or oh my, or I'm so sorry. And then you can also echo back, which is another technique. Camping, oh, very cool. Tell me more about that. Or that sounds like fun. Or these are all ways of engaging in the conversation that doesn't change the agenda. It keeps it on them. And basically what you're saying when you're echoing these things back is, I'm listening. I'm tracking with you. I'm here. You've got my attention. I'm focused in. We're not placating people. Your goal is to generally hear them. So you ask them questions to go even deeper into discovery mode. I don't interrupt, but did you say, can you explain that to me? I don't know if I got that. Could you let me know a little bit more about that, or tell me more? How did that make you feel? All these are things that cause them to go deeper into the process. And every time that you do that, in that sort of giving of yourself, you're expressing love to that person. You're saying that I really heard you. I got it. I got you. I'm hearing you. All right, so follow up with something like, hey, last time we spoke, you were telling me about your son. How's he doing? As opposed to, I'll pray for you, and then you never hear that person. I know the people that when they say they pray for you, and they really are praying for you, because a week or so later, or whenever I see them next, or I get a text, hey, how is so-and-so? How's your son? How's that business? How's that project going? I've been praying for that. I'm telling you, this is an integrity thing for all Christians. If you say that you're going to pray for somebody, do it, and then follow up. How's that going? Because for the most part, when I hear I'm praying for you, what in the back of my mind I'm hearing is, this conversation's over. I need to leave. Now, I know that's dishonoring. That's not good for me to take that cynical approach to that person. But when they never come back and ask you, it sort of confirms the process. So be a person of integrity. If you say you're going to pray for somebody, then do it, and then follow up. There are people that have been in my life, and it's the first couple times this really took me aback, that when they say they're going to pray for you, what they're really saying is, here, now, this minute, we're going to stop in the middle of this lobby, and I'm going to pray for you. Okay? If you ever run into Mike Green, and he says he's going to pray for you, it doesn't matter where you're at. He's going to pray for you right then and there. And I will tell you, I admire those people, because there's no doubt they're praying for you. All right. It's your turn. So this is how this is going to work. We're going to throw you into what's the term? A breakout room. And there's going to be at least 2 of you in that room. And you're going to have a conversation. And one person is going to be the listener, and one person is going to be the speaker. And you guys can start thinking about this. I want to hear a happy childhood memory about a pet or a friend or so forth. Whatever you feel comfortable in sharing, but it needs to be conversation. The youngest one, whoever winds up being in the room with you, and this is all random. We have no idea who you're going to get. The youngest one is going to be the one that starts off being the speaker. And we're going to go for about 3 minutes. Buffy will send out a mass message through the chat room when you know that 3 minutes is over, and then you'll change positions. Then the person that was speaking will be the listener, and the person that was listening will be the speaker. Practice these techniques. Do all that you can. Since for many of you, this is going to be your very first time ever doing this, it's okay, all those things that you would have normally said in the conversation and that you're really fighting and biting your tongue that you're not going to say during this conversation, it's okay. It's a skill that has to be developed. It's a process that you go through that is learned. And so have grace on yourself, but do your best that you can in this process. Well, welcome back. Hopefully, we're going to do this twice tonight, so hopefully the technology all worked like it was supposed to. I need some feedback from you guys. So was that easy or hard? Just a hand up. Oh, Amy, yeah, go ahead.
I was so uncomfortable. That made me so awkward. I was freaking out. Even though I love her, I was freaking out. I'll admit it. I didn't realize what a horrible listener I am. It was kind of embarrassing.
Believe me, you're not the first person to have that experience. This is an eye-opener for everybody there. Anybody else want to share about their experience? A little raise a hand or something? Reaction? Yeah, Gabe. There you
So,
go.
it was nice. Joseph was also a scout, and I was familiar with the scout camp that he went to, and so it was. We kind of got a little upper advantage because we led right into scouts, and he talked his way through there, and I found myself wanting to interject some of my experiences that I was feeling, and I was able to hold myself back. But I did ask one leading question because I like to scuba dive if he did any diving while he's out at camp, and so I caught myself feeling like I wanted to interject some of my experiences, and was able to kind of hold myself back pretty good. So really good eye opener for me.
Anybody bite the tongue? You all have, so right? Anybody else? So was it easy, or was it, for any of you, or was it really challenging to kind of be that listener? Anybody else? A little hand wave. Want to share? Michelle? Hold on. There you go.
It was easy to hold back. Of course, I've been through the class. I learned from my first time. But I enjoyed listening. It was nice to listen. It was not that I don't. It's just that it was nice to listen. And especially when you're really thinking about it, it's about them. You want to invest in them, and it was nice. It was nice holding back and thinking you didn't have to share. And then, of course, when it was my turn, she did ask me a couple questions, so it was a joy to share then. So
it's interesting when we actually do conversation the way I think it's intended. It's a pleasant experience. It
is, but you have to focus on it.
It is a skill, and I will tell you, I still have to catch myself frequently. And I've been teaching this class for 3 years, and I learned this skill 4 years ago. No, yes. So, yeah, Rebecca, go ahead and unmute yourself. Yeah,
so just like Michelle was saying, it was really a pleasure to actually hear what somebody else has gone through or experienced in their life, and trying to ask the questions that kind of lead them deeper into that conversation. But I did catch myself holding back and trying to share something, but the something that I shared wasn't actually about me directly. It was just something to relate, I guess. So I think that's where I kind of messed up a little, but I feel like I was a good listener. I think I was doing pretty good.
Yeah, remember the goal is to, when you're going to speak, is to do it in a way that doesn't take the conversation away, isn't about your agenda, but allows that person to go deeper into what they were saying. So, like, what was the best thing that you loved about scouting is a great question, because it's open-ended. It's not about your agenda. It's something that you would say, hey, how does, what were some of those memories? Nice. Any other anybody else want to share in that? Okay, we'll move on. Our desire to be known is often tempered by our desire to be loved. In Tim Keller's book, The Meaning of Marriage, he writes, "To be loved but not known is comforting but superficial. To be known and not loved is our greatest fear. But to be fully known and truly loved is, well, a lot like being loved by God. It liberates us from pretense, humbles us out of our self-righteousness, and fortifies us for any difficulty life can throw at us." It may have sounded like I was overselling this listening thing at the beginning, but read that and what that's saying. For you to be truly known and still loved. That's how God loves you. That's how we're supposed to love one another. To really know them and love them. It's a gift. It's a gift that you guys can give to everybody around you. One of the most common reactions in a design discovery meeting is tears. I can remember clearly one young lady who's now expecting and married and changed careers as after coming through BrushFires. I can't promise that you all get, spouses, or if you put that little legalese in there. But she was crying. She was sitting there with her mom, and she goes, "Finally, somebody who gets me." There are so many variations of people, like snowflakes. There's so many variations. And we buy into the lie that I can't be me and be loved. That's that orphan child message. That's that trust and mistrust. I can't be loved being me. And that's a lie. That's a lie from the enemy. I don't need to be like him to be loved. I can be me. Now, does that mean that everybody around you is going to love you? No. If they come to BrushFires, we'll try to fix that. But, but I'm saying it's okay for you to be who God created you to be. If you're a high refiner, you be that high refiner. If you're a high persuader, do it. If you're a tight motivator role, you be that version who God created you to be. Because the thing is, every time you try to be somebody that you're not, it's going to feel terrible. It's like you're putting on a show. So, as I said earlier, the listening says, I know, I get you, I'm listening to you. Design discovery meetings say, I see who God created you to be. I get who God created you to be. I like who God created you to be. Two things, like from that Tim Keller quote. I know who you are, design, and I love you. I love you. To be known and loved by God fills a vacuum that meets the most vital psychological and emotional need. We need this as much as food, and the sad, sad truth is many, many of us are starving for it. Starving for what the Father wants to truly give us. And it's truly sad. And it should not happen in the body of Christ. Should not. All right. No judgments, no rescuing, no solutions, no unasked for advice. Guys, we're not the only ones that do this, but we do it a lot. I think a current term is mansplain. Okay. And this was a hard one for me to learn in our relationship. For a long time, when we were in California, we shared an office, Buffy and I. And she does the accounting and bookkeeping and payroll and all that HR stuff that our software company needed. And we had two desks, and I was doing sales and managing the company that were in the same room. And so occasionally when she was working, doing accounting, she'd be going, and my natural instinct, because I taught her accounting, I professionally write accounting software, was to get up and to help her find out what was frustrating her. And every time I did it, she got mad at me. So it took me a long time to learn that she's just venting. Don't try to rescue her. If it goes on an extended period of time, and this can go on at times an extended period of time, I will ask her calmly, do you want me to help you? If she says yes, all good. If she says no, all good. I don't get in trouble. She'll eventually figure it out. And if she doesn't, you'll hardly ever ask. You don't ask. She'll sit there and pound her head into the keyboard until she figures it out. So anyhow, so understand, rescuing is another form of us doing that. So just ask the question, can I help you? Is there something I can do to make this better? All right, I need another volunteer. I'm going to give Gabe a break. Who do I want to talk to? Mindy. So.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna start a sentence, and I want you to draw out as much as I'm going to be a bit hesitant, like you would with a lot of conversations. I'm not going to simply run off on a story, which I can. I'm going to make a statement, and I want you to draw out using questions and comments and so forth to get me to share as much as I'm willing to share. But I'm going to hold back and do it based upon your questioning. All right?
Okay.
All right. I'm going to tell you a story about the best dog ever. All right? Of all the dogs that our family has had, and we've had many, many dogs, of all the dogs we've had, my absolute favorite dog was Beckham.
What kind of dog was Beckham?
He was sort of like a Tijuana mutt. He was about a third pit bull, some kind of a shepherd, and maybe some lab in him. It was just, he had that rugged look.
What about him made you love him so much?
That is a great question. So he had this cool swagger about him. I don't know if you know who Tone Loc was, but he did the song Funky Cole Medina. And when we would come home, he would be waiting at the gate for us, and then he would go up the driveway ahead of us. But he had this wave about the way he walked. And I swear I could hear Tone Loc singing in the background. And that was pretty cool. But what really sealed the bond is we were camping with a bunch of people one day, and Beckham went with us. And we went out to the beach, and Buffy had brought this little flying squirrel thing with a bunch of sand toys for the kids. And I picked up that flying squirrel, and I threw it. Beckham took off and tried to catch it in the air. And I go, oh my gosh, I got a Frisbee dog. And we played Frisbee. I couldn't go to the beach without taking my dog because it just wasn't the same. And we played Frisbee for hours. His mouth would be bleeding. My hands would be bleeding because he bites into the Frisbee and it would all be cut up. And so, but we absolutely loved it. Best dog ever.
It sounds like he meant a lot to you. How long was he in your life?
Not too long. He died probably about 7. In fact, so there's a video on the website. If you go on our Renegades website, go to tributes, and you'll find a picture of Beckham. And I wrote it the week before I had to put him down. And there's a video on there which was taken the very last time he and I were able to throw Frisbee on the beach together in California. And that's when we found out that he had developed cancer in his back leg, or that's the first sign of it. And it was about a year later that we found out that it was cancer. So he died at a young age, and it still hurts.
I'm so sorry.
It's all good. Great questions. Mindy did fantastic. Okay. She went right down the path that really all the stuff that I wanted to share about Beckham was all drawn out in your questions. So fantastic job. All right. Which leads us into the next time and the next breakout room. So in this one here, we're going to go through something a little bit harder. okay? I want you to share a story that's sad. Now, I don't want to hear about the death of your Frisbee throwing dog, because I don't want people coming back crying because they're talking about how their dog Buffy, got run over by a car. Okay, so what we want to do is have something that's sad but not tragic. Okay, so like a friend that moved away, or missing out on an opportunity. It's something that's sad but not tragic. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit harder for the questioner to engage in something. But it's also an opportunity for you to learn how to start to share burdens with one another and be able to be a hug from God. Welcome back. I'm not quite sure who we lost, but we lost somebody, and so Cindy dropped out. Okay, so I wound up going in with Mikal, and it's been a while since I've done that in that sort of thing, so I had to really think of a story. And it reminded me of when we were being trained in this. Some people, and I sort of did this to Mikal, have my friend Jim used to call it a stream of conscious, where they start talking and there's no logical place for the other person to inject a question. So when Mikal was the one speaking, she had these pauses where she was requiring me to ask questions, which was actually that part was fairly easy for me to do. But then when the roles switched and I started telling a story, because I wasn't really prepared to tell a story, I went on to the stream of conscious, and Mikal's going, I can't get a word in edgewise. So she handled that with tremendous grace, but it's a technique that you'll find that people will do because they've been trained that if they pause, somebody else is going to take the conversation away from them. And it's not a good thing, but it's a sad reaction for a sad outcome of what has happened. So Mikal, you did great. I did not give you a chance. The story that I told was very detailed. My friend Jim, he is a high analyst, high refiner. And when he gets onto a subject, he can go on for a good 15, 20 minutes, and you can't not get a break in. We had this one guy who is a trained psychologist who's been trained in all this stuff, and he sat there and he could not get into that conversation at all. So anyhow, I think it's basically it's just an outcome of how people have it's sort of like a defense mechanism. All right, so remember, in engaged listening, it also includes eye contact, head nodding, echoing back and what the speaker said. These are all ways of staying engaged. All right. Eye contact is really important, because when you are looking away from the person, what you're doing is you're effectively saying, my interest is over here, my interest is over there. You really have to stay focused in on that person so that they know that they really do matter and that you are really hearing them. All right. So other ways of doing this, when you're doing this in a counseling situation, by the way, counseling it's a tricky word in the church, because to be a counselor, you need to be certified. I don't know that God expects everybody that comes into your life to be redirected. Can you make that a little bit smaller so I can, yeah. To wait for some available counselor to show up so that they can have somebody to talk to. God brings these people into your life because he generally wants you to hear them. And sometimes it's just listening. It's not, again, giving them solutions. It's just listening. So this does not make you a counselor, but God will put you in positions where you are going to counsel, especially, by the way, if you have the interest and or ability of counseling and guiding. He gave it to you for a reason. He wants you to use it. Here's a way of doing that. So you want to keep somebody in counseling. You always want to keep them in discovery mode. So things like, what did you say? So what does that mean to you? Can you understand why they reacted that way? All these things are open-ended questions that causes the person to dig and give more and more out of their experience. People in discovery mode will likely eventually stumble on a part of their solution, and it has more value when they are the one that says it. You might have known what the solution was 10, 15 minutes ago. But if you come up to them and say, what you need to do is this, a lot of these people you've lost. You can't do that. But if you lead the conversation to a point where they go, you think I should apologize to my wife? When they have come to that and the words have come out of their mouth, not because you have told them to apologize to the wife, but because they finally realize, oh man, I really screwed up. When they really get that, that's going to have a real impact in them. They're more likely to go and apologize to the wife if the suggestion came out of their mouth. So if that happens, you simply smile, let them know, well, you know the right thing to do, and then allow them to do it. If they've been ignoring their conscience for an extended period of time, they don't want to hear you tell them how to live their life. They just don't. You know, remember, oftentimes God brings people into your life that he wants you to engage with because he's been trying to get them to listen to him for a long time, and he's going to try you now to talk through you to get them to listen. Doesn't mean that they're going to listen, but that's why you're there. All right. All right, so warning. For you high cooperators, you need a little safety warning in your life because you want to help. That's what cooperators are. So talking to Alicia, Dusty, Joe, Rachel, Michelle, you guys want to help. Not everybody that you are willing to help is going to honor that, okay? So you have to put down borders. And I will tell you, if you become that person that listens well, you're going to be a magnet to people. Now, some of these people are people that you can really help. Others are going to go walking around like a cloud over their head all the time. And I'm sorry, and I know this is being recorded, but they're just joy-killing people. They don't want to change. That's the thing. So you need to be very careful when you're engaging with these people, and you need to set clear boundaries. If you're a high cooperator, boundaries is your word. It's your safe place. It's like, okay, yeah, I do, I can meet with you, but I gotta be, I gotta be somewhere else at 12. So I gotta be out by 11. And just do all you can to protect yourself from being dragged in to a person's drama that doesn't want to change. This is really, really important. I will tell you that I have given people a dose of reality. I'm not a high cooperator, so I set boundaries pretty easily. And gone so far, like within men's group, that I've attended for 6, 9, 12 months, longer, some case a couple years. And I've asked the group the question, can any of you tell me the name of my kids? Or what I do for a living? Or what my dreams, my hopes, my aspirations are? a lot of our relationships tend to be superficial, and I don't know about you, but I'm sort of done with that. I want people in my life that generally care about my family and that will allow me to care about them. Allow me to be me around them and are comfortable of being them around me. I want those sort of relationships, because all that superficiality doesn't get us anywhere. It has no eternal value. I got to tell you, when I'm in a situation, I mean, I'm literally talking on these things for an hour and a half, and I'm on these situations, and I'm in this, but I'm in a situation where it's all small talk. Dude, I don't have a thing to say. Just not that interested in Tiger King or whatever that guy's name is. That's just not. All right, so in our personal lives and in our business, Buffy and I have learned a certain rule. Okay, we help people that deserve it, not those that need it. And it's important for you to understand that. A lot of people need your help in any number of different ways. The ones that deserve it are the ones that are willing to change. They're the ones that are going to actually apply what you are going to give them. If you are constantly giving somebody advice and they are ignoring you, stop banging your head against a brick wall. It's not getting you anywhere. It's not getting them anywhere. God will not violate your free will. I cannot violate your free will. Until a person is willing to change, you got to leave them. And I will tell you, we went to counseling class many years ago. First of all, are they a believer? If they're not a believer, you giving them godly principles, how to get out of the mess that they've created in their life, maybe removing the trigger, the impetus that God's trying to use for them to seek salvation. Some people have not experienced enough pain yet to change. I know it's sad, I know it's hard, but sometimes you have to sit back and let them experience enough pain until they're willing to change. And then you can help them when they're willing to change. All right, so what do you do with those people? We call it bless and release. God bless you. And I've got boundaries when it comes to you in my life now, until they're willing to change. So the Father can change your life. BrushFires can be part of that change, but only if you and your free will allow it. The question is, are you willing? All right. I still have not settled in on who I'm going to choose for the design discovery meeting. I've got a number of you. If you haven't put your name down, feel free to do it. But that live meeting is next week. This is what we will need. The person that is your advisor needs to be available and willing to participate, which means they're going to be on camera. So you need to warn them about that, because there are times where you're going to ask them a question and they need to be able to willing to say yay or nay. In most cases, there's not a whole lot of conversation or a lot of input that they have to provide. It's simply a matter of when I'm asking you to choose between eggshell white and off-white, they can tell you, oh, no, you're more the eggshell white, for sure. It's those sort of questions that they can help you with. So it needs to be somebody who knows you, who cares about you, and what's best for you. So that is the mandate. And they need to be available next week to be on the Zoom call. So if you haven't submitted your name yet, feel free to do so. And I will be contacting somebody this week. Is that it? That's it. All right. Only 4 minutes over. So much better. All right, let me go ahead and close this in prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for the gift of listening. I know you hear everything that we say, audibly and in our hearts. God, help us to be good listeners. Help us to give that gift to our families, to our spouses, to our friends, to our children, to the other members of the body of Christ. You've made us diverse, Lord, just like you've made every snowflake. And listening is a powerful tool to help bring us together as a body. So help them apply this and learn it. Give them grace when they're dealing with people that are not good listeners. And thank you, and keep them safe until we meet again. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. All right, guys. Thank you so much.